For those of you with more refined entertainment tastes, you'll know what I'm talking about. You go to the theater, the usher shows you your seats, you open your playbill, and you find a hastily enclosed slip of paper saying, "The part of Michael Fisher tonight will be played by understudy Adam Doud." You go through a range of emotions: anger, confusion, curiosity, and then quickly back to anger. Michael will return next week, but seeing as how this is the first in 145 weeks that he was not able to host the show, he wanted to leave it in the most reliable and experienced hands he knew. They unfortunately did not answer the phone, so he called me. All jokes aside, let's get this puppy rolling. LG has a new phone, Microsoft is building at Build, and we're all having a good time here on the Pocketnow Weekly. That is not the script that I was supposed to be reading. I have lost the script that I was supposed to be reading, and that is what you get when rookies make rookie mistakes. So I'm just going to go ahead and toss it over to Steven. Steven, how are you doing today?
I am all behind this going off the rails motif we have going on so far for the podcast here. Also, we've been doing this thing for 3 years? Jesus.
146 weeks.
I mean, obviously, I just never stopped to think about it.
This is episode 146 of the Pocketnow Weekly, if you can believe that. And it only took 145 episodes for me to knock off Fisher and take his spot. Hayato from Indiana, and the only Pocketnow member that I've actually ever met in person. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. I've been rushing around the city, but I'm finally here and able to relax, so I'm doing pretty good.
Rushing around the city, shooting footage for reviewers, that must mean that you are a Pocketnow reviewer. So this is all good things. We're having some good times here. So let's just go ahead and Stephen, if you could tell our viewing audience, which is undoubtedly rapidly plummeting, how they can interact with us on the show.
Well, so the theory, anyway, is that we would like you to come and watch us while we do this live on Google Hangouts, and you can submit questions in the Q&A. Other viewers will upvote the ones they like the best, and then we will, address those on the air. And if we don't get to yours, we always have email you can write us in and ask questions that we will try to address on future shows. Of course, since we're all kind of, not having Michael behind the helm here, we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants here. We'll try to remember to check the Q&A throughout the show. I have a feeling it might slip through the cracks as we get caught up with everything we want to talk about, but we're going to do our best, so if you got something interesting, please ask it. And if we don't address it, send us an email. We'll do it on a later show, but one way or another, we want to hear from you guys. So please participate and just watch us live. I mean, the high-quality version later is great, but you should be tuning in now, although if you're not already, this sort of call to participate really isn't helping. So, well.
Well done, Stephen.
If we could get this out in another medium somehow, I don't know.
Considering everything that has happened in the last, 2.5 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and call that well done. So now before we jump into the news, I do have one little piece of business that we need to discuss. For the past 18 months at my job, I've been encouraged to broaden my horizons and learn new things. And so I am going to extend the same challenge to all of our listeners and to challenge yourself to learn something new with a free 10-day trial of lynda.com. That's right, this podcast is brought to you by lynda.com, and it is used by millions of people around the world. It has over 3,000 courses on topics like web development, photography, visual design, and business, as well as software training like Excel, WordPress, and Photoshop. All of their courses are taught by experts, and new courses are added to the site every week. Whether you want to invest in a new hobby, ask your boss for a raise, find a new job, or improve upon your current skills in 2015, lynda.com has something for everyone. So give them a look at lynda.com/pocketnow. Once again, that's lynda.com/pocketnow.
Do we have, I know Lynda has sponsored us in the past. Do we have, a contractual obligation with LD West that only Michael, king of the suspender holster, only Michael can promote the LD West holster, and we're not allowed to mention it if he's not the one behind it?
I
would not be surprised.
He's pretty much done every show, so, that would be a pretty easy contract to fulfill. But no, actually, as it turns out, it's just Lynda's turn. So and we appreciate Lynda as much as we appreciate our friends from Canada.
God bless them all.
So I guess there was some news happening this week, huh? Now I just want to give
you
our.
think so? This week nothing actually happened. It's so
I know
weird.
it was crazy. It was dead. I mean, I don't even know what we're going to talk about for the next 90 minutes. But what I do know is that Michael and friends spent about an hour on the high seas just a couple of days ago discussing the LG G4. Everything you could possibly want to know about that phone is in episode number 145 of the Pocketnow Weekly. We're going to talk just real briefly. I just want to ping the other folks here on the podcast and see if they have any impressions of the LG G4. But we're just that's going to be a little on the light side today. So let's start with you, Hayato. What did you think about the LG G4?
I really like it so far. It's the camera looks fantastic, which I think is one of the biggest things that most manufacturers need to start, working on more and more with their phones. So camera looks really good. Screen, from what I hear, is fantastic. Steven, you got a hands-on with it, so I'm sure you know better than either of us. But it looks really nice.
Yeah, I was happy with what I saw. I only got to play with it briefly as we shot some pics for the hands-on video, but the camera interface was fantastic. The manual mode, lots of on-screen adjustments, really easy to reach. I don't know about how the imaging performance is going to hold up. At least we did some early tests, and we pushed this thing hard, in all fairness. We were checking out the RAW mode and the full resolution, and zooming in all the way on that, we could see some color noise here and there, but again, this was an early test, and we really did not know what we were doing, just sort of diving right in. So I think this needs some more in-depth analysis, but it felt great. I don't mind the shape that's a little more angular than the G3 was. I only got to briefly look at the leather backs, but they were definitely very attractive. I don't know if I want to feel that seam down the middle the whole time. And I am still not quite used to the rear control thing, but that I'm sure is super easy to get used to. But it's an attractive offering. I'll give LG that, and I like how they're slowly moving this the G series launch event earlier and earlier in the year. And next year, I wonder if it's finally going to be, just week after week, we're going to get the one M10 Galaxy S7 and the G5 one after another. That would be interesting.
That would be something, but I think there's one thing that that we haven't mentioned yet that our listeners will probably particularly enjoy, and that's the removable battery and the micro SD storage, which both of the other flagships that we've seen this year
Drop
left
that
out.
ball.
So I mean that could be a big thing for LG, that in and of itself. But I'm not really convinced about the whole zipper up the back thing. Maybe that's just me. It seems very 2010, darling. But I don't know.
One thing about the battery that I didn't get to mention in the hands-on, and I'm not sure if LG mentioned at the actual launch event, the company said how it was going to make a big push towards. I mean, the idea of removable batteries sounds great. Who actually has a second battery they're carrying around ready to swap in when the first one dies? It's very, you'd like to know the options there, but I question how many people actually do this. But LG said it's really going to encourage people to be buying these second batteries, and it might have some promotional deals or something where it makes them available. But it really wants people to get behind this idea of you can, in just a matter of seconds, swap the phone out with a fully charged battery ready to go. And with wireless, the support's there, but wireless charging isn't built in the same way it is with like the Galaxy S6. That could be a big deal towards making this thing a phone that's going to last you through day and night.
Topic of a weekend debate just a couple of weekends ago, actually. So let's move on from LG because, like I said, they talked that phone to death.
That was days ago, man.
Right, I know. That's crazy. So let's just go ahead and dive into the rundown. Microsoft has had a little bit of news this week. Steven, you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, Build kicked off. Was it 2-3 days ago now? It's a few-day conference, and they have lots of individual seminars, a pair of keynote addresses on 2 different days. But the main event was this yesterday? I'm already losing track of these things. Yeah,
I think it was yesterday. Yeah,
it was yesterday. Microsoft shared a bunch of stuff that started off kind of dev-heavy, and I mean this is a dev event. That's what we expected, but they segued into some of the more commercially accessible things. It showed off some new features for Windows 10 this is again for the dev side, but it's very relevant to us because it could mean a lot broader app availability. What Microsoft is going to do is make it super easy for developers of Android and iOS apps to port their existing software over to Windows 10, to sell it in the Windows Store, so users on PCs, tablets, and phones can all buy these and use them on their Microsoft devices. This isn't quite the sort of Android emulation as we've seen like BlackBerry play with, where it's you can sideload existing APKs. It's a little more hands-on than that, but Microsoft is making it very easy for devs to take their code, load it into Microsoft's tools, and with just some tweaking on the edges here and there, develop software that can be sold in the Windows Store without having to start from scratch. So there's going to be like an Android backbone underneath Windows 10's shiny Microsoft exterior that's going to let these apps to work with very little customization. And I know, considering the high effort to develop for Windows Phone apps in the first place and the low number of users, that's sort of discouraging developers in the past from porting. So this, making the bar of entry as low as possible is a really big deal, or at least promises.
In theory. But I mean, they always say you can port over your apps with minimal effort, and I just wonder how minimal that actually is. Because, I mean, I'm not a developer. I don't even play one on TV, but it seems to me there's nothing in development that's minimal. I mean, I work for a software developer, and the minimal things that we try to roll out into an upgrade usually take weeks. So I'm not sure. Hayato, you don't have any real coding experience, but do you have an opinion on the minimality of the effort in porting?
We should get Joe on here.
Yeah, we should get Joe. This is a Joe topic.
No, I have no coding background, but well, yeah.
Fair enough. Okay.
I like what you hear.
I mean, it sounds really great, and it sounds. It sounds like Microsoft is really expending the effort to get more apps into their platform by whatever means necessary, and that's going to be a win for Windows fans.
And these two, the mobile things are just half of the equation here. Microsoft is also making it easy to bring existing Win32 net apps to Windows 10. I mean, of course, you have to have background support there, but also it's going to allow developers who do web-based stuff to package their apps and sell it through the Windows Store. They can have in-app purchases and things that you normally wouldn't always get from a web app platform. So there's a lot of different ways they're making it easy to bring content to the platform.
Right, and like I said, that's going to spell a win for the users at the end of the day. At least we hope. So let's just hope for the best, and let's hope Microsoft knows what they're doing as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, I didn't get to it today in the news, but they released a new video about showing how easy it is to port this. So really, we should have watched that before doing this. But
we'll check that out.
Check out. Yeah.
Well, maybe there's an editorial in there somewhere. So, but in the meantime, I'm going to call upon my fellow Spartans, and we're going to talk about the death of the Spartan and long live the Edge browser. So, Stephen, what's going on? What's going on with this Edge thing?
Yeah, I mean, Project Spartan is Microsoft's new browser effort for Windows 10, going to be replacing the long-standing Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer will still be there for apps that or services that really require this, and this has been a thorn in IE's side for the longest time. Companies holding on to IE and 7, 8, all these deprecated versions because they have these internal services that absolutely rely on IE support. So IE is not going away, but it's being replaced as the primary browser, at least, by Spartan. We've already gotten to play with it with a PC preview a few weeks back. It arrived in the latest Windows Phone, Windows 10 preview, and now it has a formal launch name. It's going to be the Microsoft Edge browser, which I kind of suspect Microsoft just really likes the idea of having a big E as the icon for its browser, and it had to shoehorn this in here.
From a PR perspective alone, it's got to have that E because that's what people click on, the big blue E.
Yeah, when Grandma goes to check her email, she hits the E on the desktop. That's what she knows.
Seriously. So
I'm not making fun. That's how my mom actually checks her email. She only knows to recognize the browser icon on the desktop there. And
yeah, well, you're probably talking about 30% of Windows users in the world here. So, I mean, I definitely do not agree with, or I don't disagree, I should say, with the rebranding of the web browser. I did like the name Spartan. I thought that was a pretty cool name. But at the end of the day, if it's going to be Microsoft Edge, then
I worry that Microsoft realized it was going Halo with everything. I mean, Cortana and then Spartan. It's fun, but I I'm concerned that might have made the company seem like, I mean, Microsoft, it makes all its money on working with business clients, server stuff, Azure, and it needs to seem, I mean, it tries to reject this stodgy image once in a while, but maybe it felt like it was going too far into this gaming thing and it wanted to, I don't know, class things up a little.
I mean, from a tech support background, I'm going to have nightmares about trying to explain to people, yeah, open Edge. No, 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 not the edge of the screen, the Edge browser. You're just going to end up calling it the Big Blue E. So I think at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what the name is. But I guess I can't think of a better name at this point. So I guess we're just going to kind of run with that for now. Moving on, what's next in the list? We have Microsoft Continuum, which sounds a lot like continuity, but isn't continuity. It's Continuum, and it has 2 U's, which is always fun. So what is Continuum? Either one of you can jump in on this one.
Go ahead, Steve.
I know what it is.
All right, Steve. All right, Steven, Continuum, go.
Yeah, Continuum. This is Continuum, something that Microsoft's been talking about since Windows 10 first was announced last fall. Was it technically summer? But the big news here is about Continuum for phones and what this means for users who want to take their smartphones and try transitioning to a more desktop experience when it suits their needs. It's an idea that has been in the smartphone world for a while here. That you could take your phone. I mean, it's essentially a computer. It has all of it has tons of RAM these days, lots of storage, speedy processors. By all analyses, this should be as powerful as at least as powerful as like those little Intel HDMI sticks that can plug into a TV and turn it into a computer. So why not plug your phone into the TV? So the idea is you hook your smartphone up to a monitor, attach some peripherals, keyboard, mouse over Bluetooth, and then you have a full desktop experience, but it's being powered by your smartphone. And this is going to exist with Windows 10 devices. You're not going to be able to use it with existing Lumia models that upgrade to Windows 10. This is something that's going to require specific hardware to pull off, but that will be coming in time. And it looks really, really promising. It's not quite, because this hardware isn't available yet, Microsoft had to do a simulated demo, but it looks really polished. You attach the phone to the monitor, it pops up with the app, thanks to the universal apps that are going to be part of Windows 10. You get a desktop-looking app. The UI isn't just a smartphone screen stretched out. It looks like it would on a proper PC. And you can also, it's going to have screen doubling. You can have doing stuff on your phone with the phone UI at the same time you're working with this desktop UI on the monitor. Hugely ambitious. I haven't seen anyone pull this off in a way that's streamlined, that users want to use, that doesn't require a lot of expensive new hardware. And it very well might happen. We're going to be paying attention the next couple of months to see if Microsoft really makes this work as well as it promises to.
Well, that's pretty cool. And, on the one hand, a lot of what this sounds like is the break between Windows 7 and Windows 8. When Windows 8 phones started coming out, Microsoft said basically the same thing. That the hardware in the old phones wasn't going to be compatible with the new Windows 8 stuff that was coming out. So that's why they pushed out Windows 7.8, which left off like a lot of the NFC stuff. And now I'm going to say the same thing here that I said back then is how dare they not ship out NFC coils to manually solder into the back of our Windows 7 phones?
Of course, because people are going to be doing that.
Right, and the same thing here is how dare you not ship out updated processors so that we can connect our Windows or my Lumia 920 to a TV.
I was thinking about this. Are there any Windows Phone models that currently have hardware HDMI out?
I don't know. I don't know of any off the top of my head. So
NHL or something.
But at the same time, I love this idea. I love the idea of taking your phone and setting it down and connecting a keyboard and a mouse and a monitor and just let the phone be the box. I mean, that's really all you have to do. You have all your local storage, right? In fact, I think this was the subject of another, I don't know if this is a weekend debate, but it was an editorial that I wrote about a Windows-based pad phone, which is not dissimilar to what we're talking about here, where you take the phone, you plug it into a tablet, and it becomes a tablet, and you take the tablet, you plug it into a keyboard, it becomes a laptop. I mean, it's not dissimilar here, so I'm going to go ahead and take credit for this. Hayato, do you have a whole lot of Windows experience? And building upon that, would you ever use your phone as a netbook, if you will?
Well, I don't have much experience with Windows on the desktop. I have used Windows Phone quite a bit in the past, and I really like the interface. Really, the big thing that's kept me from switching from Android to Windows Phone is pretty much the same thing. I feel like the same reason for most people is just the apps are just not quite there in comparison. But no, I love the idea. I feel like this is what Microsoft has been sort of wanting to do with Windows Phone from the very beginning, is make it as similar to the desktop as possible, so that way once you introduce a feature like this, it's hopefully pretty seamless, pretty easy, and everything should hopefully just blend right in together.
I just wonder how many people are going to get the hardware in their homes to really take advantage of this. I mean, I guess it makes sense if you're connecting to a TV, but if you need the keyboard, the mouse, and like a desktop-sized computer monitor, it's going to seem a little weird sitting around with like nothing attached to it most of the time. I'm sure you come home, you can drop your phone in. I guess we'll see cradles and things to make the process super easy, but it's going to be weird, like unused hardware that most of the time has nothing to drive it. Do you think people will really set stuff like that up?
I think it's going to be a lot like the ROMing community on Android, where it's really not something that most people are going to buy an Android for, just the way that most people are not going to buy a Windows Phone for this feature. But the power users that want it, it's going to be cool to have.
I heard that as ramen feature when you first said it, and got really hungry and excited all at the same time.
Oh, let's not talk about food. I'm still recovering from some bad Indian cuisine from earlier today. So, in general, yeah, I think this is definitely the type of thing. I don't think people are going to seek out Windows phones just so they could say, yeah, I could take it to a hotel and use it as a laptop. But at the same time, it's one of those have it but not need it type things, which is pretty cool. And speaking of having it but not needing it.
Oh, but before we move on, though, I can see this possibly being big for like businesses. I mean, I've seen like people who have, they take their laptops around, and at work they'll have a monitor, keyboard, and stuff. Just put it in the docking station. Exact same thing, where you just carry your primary device with you and plug it in wherever there's a station where you need it. So in certain use cases, this could be big.
And I think it's definitely an evolving technology, and it's an evolving culture as well. So there's going to be a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of nose to the grindstone. And I'm out of analogies, so we're just going to go ahead and move on to the giant Holo helmet, as I like to call it, or the return of the HoloLens. So, Hayato, I'm going to throw this one over to you. Did you do your homework? Do you know what's going on with this?
I really have not had much time. That's kind of why I'm quiet right now. Is I've been trying to read all of this stuff. I've been busy with a couple of videos.
Honestly, watching this whole presentation was not a lot of fun. I mean, I got some good stuff out of it at the end, but there was so much Azure cloud coding at the beginning.
Yeah,
you're excused for not keeping up with this.
Well, to be fair, I didn't know much about it until I got the rundown. So, but anyway, so all right. So, Steven, you can pin apps to the wall, from what I understand. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, Microsoft brought out HoloLens again. We saw this a couple months back at the late January event when we first were introduced to the hardware, but it was still pretty rough around the edges. This time it was a lot closer to, I think, the final experience we were going to get. We had users out on stage wearing the thing, completely untethered. They're walking around. It's the device. It's scanning the environment. It's building an augmented reality map of the room. And then it allows them to take these regular Windows 10 apps. You're not going to need anything special for HoloLens. And they can view it in a window. I mean, it's called Windows after all. View it in a window that can sort of be pinned up to walls. And it sort of stays there like a real poster or something would on a wall in your house. You can walk around, come back to it. You can take a command, and the HoloLens will then have the window kind of pop off the wall and follow behind you. So it's an interesting merger of the windowed desktop environment we're familiar with and something closer to actual physical windows. And it's all very interesting and compelling, and we want to play with this for ourselves. And that's also one of the big things here is that Microsoft brought along HoloLens units for these devs to try out at Build. So we're going to be getting a lot of first-hand reports probably in the days and weeks to come. Also showed off some cool ways you can interact with Internet of Things devices. They had a little robot on stage, but the key bit there was how you don't need to have every device in your house having full spatial awareness, because they can sort of piggyback off the HoloLens. The HoloLens develops this 3D sense of where everything is, and then it can relay that information to other devices so they can cut down on their complexity, and that raises affordability and all sorts of good things that will make Internet of Things as exciting as it promises to be.
Yeah, that did seem really cool. I think they specifically mentioned, if I remember correctly, they were talking about you could have like a robot that would use the data collected by the HoloLens, and it would actually be able to navigate the room without having its own onboard sensors. So
exactly.
that seems pretty sweet. And I don't think I'm alone here when I say I want R2-D2 to serve me drinks. And so if HoloLens can get me closer to that, I'm on board.
R2-D2 is always causing trouble. You want C-3PO. He's a good obedient droid.
No, that's true, but he is whiny.
So when I was at CES earlier this year, just my last day, I was just kind of wandering around, and I saw this little booth with a robot that was kind of fenced into the display area, and the entire purpose of the robot was just you can add different modules to him to make him do different things. Of course, you buy those, and it's kind of, I'm assuming that's where they're going to get most of their money. But the one that they were demonstrating, the feature they were demonstrating, was that the little robot can go to a mini fridge. You can add an attachment to your fridge to where he can grab a soda can, bring it straight to you, and he hands it to you, does a little spin, and he goes about on his way.
Didn't they have that exact same? I swear to God, there was a drink serving robot in Revenge of the Nerds. Does anybody remember that?
Yeah.
We've been waiting for this for a while. Thank God it's finally happening.
Thank you, Mike.
Future.
It took 25 years.
So the next thing in our rundown, it's actually our last piece of Microsoft news. I'm not excited about this at all. I don't know if you guys are excited about that. I mean, Steven, do you want to give us like 30 seconds on this Office add-ins thing? Because I honestly didn't even know Office had add-ins. I never use them.
Do you use Microsoft Office a lot?
I use Microsoft Office like a ton, but Uber? I don't know.
I'm an open office guy. I was not even aware of this functionality, but yeah, awesome. You can apparently add in like their plugins to Office that can either be for like industrial purposes. Maybe a company has like a way it likes its forms prepared. It has a plugin that makes that super easy. Maybe it's something that helps you search through all your documents or just organize them better. But third parties can add this functionality to Office. In the past, that's been for the PC desktop version of Office. But as Office grows to be in the cloud, on tablets and things, it doesn't make much sense for these add-ins to only work with one version. So in Windows 10 and Office 2016, the add-ins, I keep on calling them plugins or add-ons, add-ins will function across all these platform lines. What works on the PC will work on the iPad, vice versa, yada yada. If you used them before, they're going to get better. If you didn't care about them before, you're still not going to care about them. That's about it.
I think this is fantastic news for people that are not on this podcast. So let's go ahead and move on. So the Apple Watch might not be so nice on the iPhone's battery. So there was a lot of I'm just going to go ahead and run with this one because why not? Because the Apple Watch has taken some criticism that its battery life wasn't all that great. Well, now it turns out that that might be a transmittable disease over to the iPhone itself, because it seems that the Apple Watch, I keep wanting to call it the iWatch, the Apple Watch app seems to not be so kind to the iPhone's battery. There were some reports saying that the iPhone was performing great because they never had to look at the screen; it was all on the watch. But then there are other users that were complaining about battery life on the iPhone, and it seems to possibly be due to this iPhone companion app that makes the watch go. So I think that's
that sounds bad.
It sounds bad. I think it's a little bit too early to tell. I think
in software you can always try to improve power management in the future. I don't think this is a deal breaker necessarily.
Right now, I know we none of us here really have experience with the Apple Watch except for me, who stayed up till 2:30
I
ordering
saw
it during
one
the
the
time.
other day, which is the first time I can say that.
In the
But
wild, nice.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, I know at least Hayato and I have experience with wearables in general. Now, I haven't noticed any type of drop off when it comes to performance, at least with either Android Wear or with Pebble. Hayato, have you seen any type of have you noticed any performance issues like that with your own phone's batteries with a wearable connected?
I have a little bit. It's
Okay.
nothing terribly noticeable, but typically if I have my Moto 360 connected to a phone, it usually ends up being like a 5 or 10% decrease overall.
Which isn't
Wow.
that bad, sort of what you'd expect. I'm curious
Yeah.
though, do you guys normally keep Bluetooth enabled on your phones?
Yeah.
Because, okay, like
Yeah, when I don't, even
only
when I don't
toggle
have
it
a
on when I'm
watch.
using
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
So I
even when I
wonder.
don't have a watch, I keep Bluetooth on. I don't know why. I probably shouldn't actually, but I mean, my car's Bluetooth, and I've got a lot of like portable Bluetooth speakers that I use, so it kind of makes sense for me to leave it on all the time. So it kind of depends on your own individual use case.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in general, I would think that the loss of battery life would probably be made up for in the fact that you don't look at your phone as often. I mean, I go hours and hours at a time, which, granted, sounds really bad. But I mean, I go hours at a time without actually looking at my phone because I've got all the notifications coming into my watch. I don't
That
need that.
shouldn't sound really bad.
No, I mean
God, what have we become?
it sounds bad in a social way, like I don't know. It just yeah, it's just not yeah. But anyway, so as it turns out, it's really too early to tell. I think so. The Apple, we'll definitely keep an eye on this story and see what the Apple Watch does with iPhone batteries in the long term, especially with our own unit. And I'm sure that's a detail that Michael will be paying particular attention to. Another detail that he'll be paying attention to is this Taptic engine that is included with the watch, but it seems that that's not exactly blowing up a lot of skirts recently. Isn't that right, Stephen?
I have no idea what that's supposed to mean.
Well, it's not. It's the Taptic engine is I guess is faulty on some Apple watches that
Yeah,
were
so
being produced.
so we've heard the Taptic engine is the haptic feedback component of the Apple Watch that makes it vibrate. It makes it the force touch that you can tap on the phone, transmit a tap to your friend. The Taptic engine is the receiver part that generates the motion that they end up feeling. And rather than a little weight on the end of a motor that spins around and like a vibrator in the phone, this thing has a little weight that slides back and forth, so it can create linear motion. And reportedly, there were problems with this that it wasn't functioning as intended, but supposedly none of these faulty ones ever ended up reaching distribution channels. It may have impacted availability to an extent, which may be why you're having trouble finding an Apple Watch, or your shipment's taking a little bit longer to get to you than you would have liked, but it doesn't seem like it's something that us end users should be too worried about.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a relief because there's another. They were actually getting the Taptic engine from two different distributors, if I remember correctly. So what they did was they kind of kicked the one to the curb and told the other one, "You're going to have to double your production. Hope that's not a problem."
It's good to have options.
It's that's what they call a diversified portfolio of equipment. Man, I don't know if that's what they call it or not, but that's what they should call it.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, so we're gonna go with their diversified portfolio. Nidec, it looks like, is the company that's ramping up production to make up for the failures of the other Taptic engines. And we just had one little last piece of Apple news. I'll go ahead and grab onto this one because this is probably about as interesting as the Office add-ins one. But it seems that Siri is getting a bit of a makeover. So that's nice. It's interesting because Siri was probably the first voice assistant, the one that really, put voice assistants on the map, I guess would be fair to say. And since then, it's like Apple took Siri out of the box, said, "Hey, everybody, here's Siri," put her down, and then completely forgot that she existed because there hasn't been a whole lot of advancement in Siri since she debuted 4 years ago, something like that. And so now it seems that they are updating. They are updating Siri. They're giving her a whole new back-end component, which is it's this system called Mesos, which is used by Twitter and eBay. And if you can tweet about it and you can buy it used, it's got to be good.
I don't know if makeover is the right word for this, because it doesn't sound like anything on the user-facing side is going to change. This is, like you said, all back-end stuff that will improve Siri's responsiveness and ability to scale with users, but you won't notice anything. It's not going to start responding to your queries differently. We did see some news about that, or at least rumors, with Apple supposedly patenting this feature that would make Siri a little more conversational in its tone. I think it was about driving directions, how it would give you more contextual stuff, like instead of turn left in 500 feet, because who can picture how far 500 feet is to any accuracy? It's like, look for the orange building up on your right, and look out for that and make your turn then. So there could be some changes to how you interact with Siri, but separate from this upgrade.
Now, in all fairness, I am a geocacher, so I can actually estimate 500 feet pretty darn well. But anyway,
Exception that proves the rule.
Yeah. So, but in general, I think they're trying to make Siri better, which is a good thing.
Bless their hearts.
Well, bless their little hearts, because Google Now and Cortana are pretty much wiping the floor with Siri, at least as far as I'm concerned. So,
and we heard Amazon's working on, was it Amazon or somebody's working on their own sort of Siri knockoff? Everybody wants to have one of these guys.
They've got that Amazon the pedestal thing that
the Echo or something.
Echo, that's what it is. I think it is. Where you
Amazon
can
or somebody else.
I don't know, but it's like a thing. It's like a Siri. It actually looks a lot like this, and it sits on a table, and you ask it, how many cups are in a quart, and it says you should Google it.
I'm sure somebody.
But anyway, so that's pretty much does it for Apple, and we do have some non-LG G4 stuff to talk about, starting with Sony. Stephen, what's going on with Sony sales there? It looks maybe like it's not so good.
Well, they haven't been selling a lot more phones than they have in the past. In the mobile industry, as in pretty much every industry, growth is the word. And if you're not outdoing yourself on a yearly basis, you are failing. And that's pretty much what Sony did this past year, is it sold just about as many phones as it did the year before. Now we see, quarterly changes, more phones in around the holiday time and all, and sort of this dry spell in the late winter, early spring. But year-round, it really didn't make much of a dent. The problem, though, is what Sony sees happening in this coming year, in that rather than things staying the same or even getting better, it only expects them to go down. Now, this isn't necessarily a capital B bad thing, because Sony seems like it wants this to happen. It's going to stop trying to sell as many phones as it had in the past, but it wants to have the phones that it does sell bring in more money for the company. So that's going to see it move away from, not that it already had a huge lineup of budget phones with very slim margins to begin with, but supposedly it's going to sell fewer of those, concentrating more on the more profitable models like flagship Xperia Z4. But it's still forecasting a drop of like 23%, which is not insubstantial. I think it added up to maybe 9 million fewer phones over the course of the year. So I don't know if Sony's maybe considering backing away from phones entirely a few years from now, but if this trend continues, it doesn't give me a lot of hope. I'll say that.
Right. But I mean, there is some news that comes off of that about the Z4 and the Z3 Plus. Is it? That's kind of yeah. Well, it's a plus, so plus means better, right, Stephen?
It should. Or bigger. You never know with smartphones. Does max mean more memory? Does max mean phablet size? What does plus mean?
Bigger battery.
Yeah.
Okay, so
ruggedized.
But so we heard that the Sony Z4 was coming to Japan only, if I remember correctly. But now there seems to be rumors that there's going to be a Z3 Plus, which may or may not be the same thing as the Z4, but
The
for
Z4
a
launch
world
was
market.
so weird that Sony did things this way. I mean, obviously it has to release a flagship for international markets, and whether it'll be the Z4 or something, or the Z4 under a different name, or something very similar, same internals, maybe slightly different aesthetics, we don't know. And the latest idea is that it'll be this Z3 Plus. And I don't know the specifics on this rumor here. I know last we heard they talked about maybe a launch in May. So hopefully we'll get the truth about this soon. But I don't like the idea of. I mean, I know that the Z2, Z3, and now the Z4 haven't been the hugest differences between them. They're very iterative steps, and Sony upgrading components here and there. But I don't like the idea of branding this thing in the same family as the Z3. It's going to be confusing to shoppers.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, if they're now, was there an announcement about the Z4? Maybe Hayato can speak to this as well, because the Z4 stuff went completely by me. Because I work for a living.
You're not in Japan.
Exactly. Now, was there an announcement about the Z4 that said specifically it's Japan or bust, or I mean, did they leave that open, or how did that go down exactly? Why would we be looking at a Z3 Plus worldwide with a Z4 in Japan only? Does that make sense to either one of you? Was there any announcements about that?
When I saw the press release for the Z4, I didn't see anything specifically saying it would only be going to Japan.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's the only place they have said that it's coming, so we really don't know what's going on.
That's true.
Okay, so it just falls into the general weird category, I think, is what we're all pretty much in agreement on there. And then, but it turns out that despite declining sales for Sony smartphones, or at least smartphones that say Sony on them, what about the smartphones that have Sony in them?
This is the great thing about being a big conglomerate, being a Samsung, an LG, or a Sony. Your smartphones aren't selling that good. Maybe your dishwashers are, and your bottom line is still nice. Sony, its phones may not be flying off the shelves, but the parts that it makes sure go into a lot of other popular phones. And specifically, we're talking about the imaging modules, the camera sensors that appear in all sorts of phones. If there's a smartphone from a manufacturer and they're specifically naming who's making the camera sensor in it, 9 times out of 10, if you're calling that out, it's because it's a Sony sensor. And Sony's apparently making cash in this hand over foot. So even if it's not, succeeding in the whole phone arena as well as it might like to, it can still do okay helping other people. And this is because like Samsung making screens for devices or fabricating chips for Apple. You make money off or Microsoft and its patents and getting money from just Android phones. Everyone makes a little money from somebody else.
It's a little less sexy, but it fills up the bank accounts, so I guess there's no problems with that.
Full.
Exactly, and as long as we're keeping the coffers full, I think that's really what's important, especially if we're happen to work for Sony. Let's see. Moving on, we've got some new names for some Samsung devices. I'm not sure why this is really exciting, but let's.
They do so many news stories a day. Some of them won't be as exciting as others, but they're interesting. God darn it!
All right. Well, we've got actually a couple of different Samsung rumors here. So why don't we just go ahead and talk about them and see what's going on? What's up with this new code name for the Note 5?
Well, obviously we'll be getting a Note 5 sometime later this year, presumably around IFA in early September. We haven't heard much about the device's hardware so far, besides the fact that it might have this stupid high-res, not quite, I guess it's 4K class, but 38-something by 20-something Ultra HD screen.
Stupid in a good way, I take it.
Is there any other kind?
Well, not according to my wife.
But they've uncovered some... I feel like I was cutting someone off there.
Nope, continue.
We found some model numbers that look like they're going to be for the Note 5, to sort of follow in the same scheme and building off what the Note 4 was. And tied to them, we've also come up with a code name, Project Noble. Of course, this is not how the phone will launch. It will be the Galaxy Note 5 unless something radical happens inside Samsung and everyone goes crazy. But we'll probably be hearing this name a little over the next few months as leaks mention it. We start learning more about the actual hardware capabilities. And also we heard picked up some news about model numbers that look like they could be something Galaxy S6y. They are the SMG928 series devices. They had the suffixes that show these are coming to multiple carriers, both US and international. And the 928 we haven't seen before, but the 920 is the Galaxy S6. The 925 is the Galaxy S6 Edge, so it's not a huge stretch of imagination that the 928 will be something like that. What it is, though, no one really seems to know. And I guess my instinct went to this could be another active, especially with the Galaxy S6 not formally waterproof. And we had heard a little bit about possible plans for an active, including some really exciting rumors that could bring back micro SD expansion. But I believe we had a model number tied to that already, and it wasn't this. So I'm left with a strong guess of what this could be.
I would love to see a Galaxy S6 active personally. I mean, I was really excited when the S5 came out being waterproof.
Active was kind of the S5 itself being waterproof was cool.
Yeah.
But the S5 active wasn't that exciting, not like the S4 active was.
Yeah, and I was disappointed to find out that the S6 was not waterproof because I'm an outdoorsy kind of person. I'm outside during the summer, and because I live in Chicago, so during the winter I'm never outside if at all possible. But during the summer, spring, fall, I'm outside as much as I'm inside. When I'm not sleeping, I should say. So I mean, I love the idea of a rugged phone that can stand up to being stuck out in the rain or being dropped into a puddle or something like that. So I would be excited to see a Galaxy S6 active.
I believe we've seen some promising results from informal, well, I guess not informal, but non-official waterproofing tests. I mean, people have submitted the Galaxy S6 to torture beyond what it should be able to survive, and it sounds like it's doing okay, even without capital W waterproofing. So you might be okay getting a little rain on it, but don't go nuts.
Let's not go too far there. All right. So what do we got next in our rundown? Oh, the S6 and the RAM. Steven, tell us about the S6 and what it's doing with its RAM.
Galaxy S6 has quite a bit of RAM, 3 gigabytes, which is about as much as you can expect from your average flagship at the moment. We are seeing 4, but none of the big manufacturers have gotten behind that with their hero devices. So with a 3 gigabyte device, you would think that the phone could kind of let apps go crazy. They can stay in the background. It doesn't have to kill them because you're not going to run low on RAM when you start multitasking. While that's the way you assume this might work, apparently that hasn't exactly been the case for the Galaxy S6, and users have seen the phone aggressively managing available RAM to the point that it's removing apps from RAM when it doesn't appear to be a reason why it should. Like it's trying to keep more space free than it actually needs to. It sounds annoying, but not at all like something that Samsung couldn't fix. If this is a bug, if this is an intended operation, this seems like exactly the sort of thing we'll see addressed in a future firmware upgrade. So I wouldn't lose too much sleep over this.
Okay. Hi, Otto. You're a device reviewer, so you're no stranger to putting phones and other devices through their numerous stress tests. Does Samsung have a point here? Is Samsung? Is this a good thing that they might be, kind of hovering over the diner, just waiting to grab their plate just as soon as they eat that last bit of fish?
I don't think so. Something I always tell people at my day job selling phones is to, everybody always asks, do I need to use these task killers and all those different apps that are all generally doing the same essential purpose of just wiping everything off of your phone. And I usually tell people to just not use those because they end up closing too many apps that don't need closing, and then the system has to reopen them, and
flip side to that, I find myself manually closing apps all the time, not because I'm worried about available RAM or performance, but because every once in a while I'll go to pick up my phone at the end of the day, and I'm a relatively light user. I'm here, like Adam said, I'm not checking my phone constantly, especially when I'm at my office and get my emails and everything on my desktop. But I'm used to having 80-70% battery life left at the end of the day. Every once in a while, though, it'll be down at 30 because there's one app that I went away from, and it kept running in the background, and it ate 80% of my battery. So I'm always aggressively killing them just so they don't run and run down the battery.
Now, see, I do it just because I'm OCD. I don't like having, and you know what? I'm like the anti-Palm user. Considering I grew up loving WebOS and the cards and everything like that, I never kept cards that I wasn't using. I always dismissed them, and people are like, "You're missing the point," and I'm just like, "I know, but why? I'm not using them, so let's just get rid of it." So I guess maybe I'm a little bit on Samsung's side in this particular case. You're not using it. Get it out of here. We don't need you. We don't want you here. We don't serve your kind here. Especially when they say it in a really stupid voice like this.
Yeah, what accent is that supposed to be?
I don't even know. But it's a punk accent is what it is. We don't need you here. Anyway, maybe it could be a Chicago accent for all I know. But anyway, so yeah, I guess I'm kind of on Samsung's side, and Hayato is not, and
we don't even know if this is what it's supposed to be doing. This could very well be glitchy operation and doesn't seem to be affecting everyone. So this might be like an edge case, no pun intended, that will be addressed in a future update.
Right. But I mean, moving on to brighter things. The one app that I do love to have running all the time is Google Now, and it looks like Google Now is expanding its functionality even more than how awesome it already is. So what do we got here? We got some new stuff that it's doing these days. Is that right?
Yeah, you're going to start seeing new cards from a lot of third-party apps that integrate with Now and allow you to pull up information from them right through Now's interface. Google started making available an API earlier this year, and now I think it tracked 70 apps that can take advantage of this. All sorts of things from like reservation, hotel making stuff, to restaurant reviews, to music. It's just going to make the Now experience a lot richer, and we're going to see this list of sorted apps keep growing in the months to come. So,
and in the meantime, Google is sucking your privacy right out the window. So, because now it's going to know what music I'm listening to, and I can't deal with that. So anyway, I'm just kidding. So that there's actually a whole list of new apps. If you go to the source link of this particular, we're not going to get into all of them. There's Spotify. I think there's Uber, Open Tables in there. But I know, Stephen, we're coming up on a hard stop for you, so we're just going to get to our one last piece of news
glad
here.
You're looking at the clock because I was not.
Yeah. So speaking of time, how's that for a segue? We got a high-end Android Wear device coming out. Let's hear all about this, Stephen, and we'll let you go after that.
Yeah, we heard, it was like a month or so ago, Tag Heuer, luxury watch manufacturer, was rumored to be developing a smartwatch, and we got the announcement then it was the next day after that rumor landed, but it was super light on details. It said Tag Heuer, Google, and Intel are creating this smartwatch, and just didn't say anything after that. So it was, it's exciting because it's going to be a luxury brand, and especially with the Apple Watch out now, that's a market that's pretty much untapped in the Android Wear field. So we got the big news back then was confirmation that yes, this is an Android Wear device and not some exotic Samsung Tizen-y thing. And now we got the new detail that supposedly this thing is going to sell for about $1,400, which is clearly more expensive than all the Android Wear devices out there. It's not nearly as sky high though as the Apple Watch Edition 5,000. Was it? No, it's 10,000 starting for that. Yeah, 10,000 starting price.
You could buy 10. You could buy 10 of those and still not pay as
stocking
much.
Stuffers. Just give them away.
Most expensive Apple Watch, but still, it's pretty pricey for an Android Wear device. So I'm sorry. By all means, continue.
It's probably comparable to instead of the Apple Watch Edition, maybe getting the normal Apple Watch, the steel one, with a real fancy link strap on there. Because what you're going to get, this is the shell that exists for a already out there Tag Heuer model regular watch, and they're just going to take the frame of that, rip out all them nice little gears and jeweled operation thing there, put in an LCD screen, put in an Intel processor, and this is going to be, it's going to look like a regular watch. That's what it is on the outside, but have a LCD screen, and it's going to operate with Android devices. I think we have some launch info. They're talking about this fall, October or November, so it's still quite a ways out, but this could be one of the more attractive Android Wear devices to come around this holiday season.
especially when you consider that it'll be working with your Android device, but it'll be working for quite a long time with your Android device. 40
Yeah, good
hours
battery life.
of battery
I
life that
don't know
they're
how
talking
they're
about?
going to do that, especially if it's based on an existing watch design that's going. I mean, regular watches, by and large, are a lot slimmer than smartwatches. So I don't know where they're shoving that battery, but
Right. I mean, 40 hours. That's pretty crazy. I mean, I think Hayato and I have both experienced the oh my God, my watch is down to 10%. I need to hurry home type of situation. The train can't move fast enough in those particular cases, but 40 hours. I mean, and I think this also opens up the floor for a general discussion about the battery life of smartwatches. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I know since Hayato and I have both had the Moto 360 and a couple of other wearables. Hayato, where are you when it comes to like battery life of a watch? Are you a multi-day person, or
Oh,
are you
absolutely
just are
not.
you okay with a one day performance?
My watch never lasts me past a day. I don't necessarily mind that, but I would definitely like to not have to worry about charging it every single night, which is why I'm looking forward to getting the Pebble Time Steel once that comes out.
Oh, it's going to be very nice, Steven. Have you haven't had any wearables as far as I know?
This guy. What is this? Martian, which just has a little OLED screen like a
Yeah.
regular
All
watch. So
right.
it lasts for quite a while, but you're not getting anywhere. It's just like a notification watch. You're not getting any apps or proper Android Wear stuff. So that lasts a
Okay.
while, but that's because it's not
Nice.
doing much.
Okay.
I
Well.
expected you to just pull out like a Casio.
A Casio with
Swatch.
a Mickey Mouse, or at least a Mickey Mouse watch or something. So, all right, Steven, I'm not going to keep you any longer because I know you need to scurry. So before you go, why don't you tell everybody where they can hear from you on Twitter? Which, by the way, happened twice last week. You've tweeted 2 times in a single day. I was impressed. So, where can we find you on the internets?
Steven Schenk at Twitter. That's not how emails go. At Steven Schenk on the Twitter. I do Twitters.
You are a social media maven, Steven. Well, I thank you for coming on and walking us through the news because
Sure.
we couldn't have done it without you. So
I'm sorry I can't stick around longer, but I'm sure you guys are going to knock out these reader emails. So
yeah,
enjoy.
we're gonna have some good time talking to the readers. So that'll be fun. I will let you go do your stuff. So thank you very much, Steven.
Take it easy, fellas.
See you soon, man.
All right, Hayato. So we are going to now. Ordinarily, at this point in the show, we would look over at the Q&A section and see what's going on over there. But Hangouts has abandoned us, and we don't have a Q&A section. Maybe users are posting to it, and probably most of those Qs are who is this guy and where is Michael. But we don't see it. I don't know why. I'm very sorry, listeners. It's awesome that you're tuning in and watching us, but we can't see any of your questions and comments. So we're just going to go straight into listener mail. We have 3 pieces that we chose. Hayato, I'm going to go ahead and grab the first one.
Sure.
But I want you to be ready to get the second one. So the first piece of email we have comes from Tim. I'm going to go with Kujat, Kujat, and it says, Dear Pocketnow team, enjoy the podcast, love all the input. Down to the point of the email. I love this brevity. It's wonderful. Me and my friends all got the HTC One M7 when it came out. Phone's still great, but they have Lollipop update and I don't. My friends are on Sprint and have terrible service, but they have timely updates. I'm on Verizon. I have great service, but my updates are insanely slow. So which would you rather have? Great service and a terrible update times, or terrible service and quick updates? Hayato, I throw it to you.
I would honestly, I would take the former. I'd much rather have better service and stick with the software that's already given to me. I've always gone under the assumption that you should never really expect updates on your phone, just because no matter how much a carrier or a manufacturer will promise the update, it's not necessarily going to happen, and even if it does, it's probably not going to happen at the projected time schedule. So I would always go with service over the software on my phone.
Absolutely true, and I'm definitely on the same page. I mean, it doesn't matter if I have Lollipop if I can't make a freaking phone call, so
Right.
or if I can't surf the internet or whatever. And not to mention, I learned back in my days with Palm, never buy a phone based on what they promise it will do. Buy it for what it does right now. So I think that's actually a pretty quick answer for us. Definitely get the reliability of the service first. If you get the software update, that's a bonus. So at least that's where we stand. Tim, thanks for writing in. And Hayato, I'm going to throw it to you.
Yeah, this next one comes from Greg Vogt, who was nice enough to let us know how you pronounce his last name, since it's spelled a little bit differently than I would have thought Vogt would be. It says, in the next month or so, I will be purchasing my first Android phone and have decided on the Galaxy Alpha, which I'll be buying used and using on AT&T next week, I'm assuming. The question I have is, which version should I buy? Should I get the AT&T version that's designed to work on AT&T's next network? Network.
I'm thinking network. I'm thinking that's supposed to be network, and that's just really bad autocorrect.
Yeah. So he's wanting to know if he should get the AT&T model or get the international version, which has no carrier bloat and other features like download booster, as well as an unlocked bootloader so that he can deal with custom ROMs in the future. Thank you in advance for your input on this decision. Greg Vogt, sent from my BlackBerry 10 smartphone.
I think that's the actually most important part of the of the email there, that he's coming from a BlackBerry and he's moving over to the Galaxy Alpha. So where do you stand on this particular issue, Hayato?
I think the Galaxy Alpha is a good phone. I don't know that it's exactly the number one phone I'd recommend right now, especially on AT&T's network where they have a lot of good phones to choose from. But it's still, it's a great phone. It's a really nice size, and I'm assuming that's probably one of the reasons why Greg is wanting to get the Alpha versus something like the bigger S6 or the Note series.
Sure.
So especially if you're coming from a BlackBerry 10, I feel like, and this being your first Android, you're probably not going to notice any of the huge differences between something like, say, the Galaxy Alpha and, again, one of the newer and faster phones like the S6. I think it should, be a good choice.
Okay. What about international versus AT&T?
That one, really, I would say, I would say the biggest buying decision with that, since he mentioned custom ROMs and the unlocked bootloader on the international version, if he thinks that rooting and throwing ROMs on there is going to be something important to him, then obviously the international version is going to be the only way to go, unless somebody's unlocked the bootloader in the AT&T model, and I just don't know about it. If you don't care about rooting, I would definitely say just to get the one that's made for your carrier. You're going to have the best service and the best compatibility that way.
Yeah, and it also I also wonder how willing AT&T would be to service a device that is meant for international. Like if anything should happen to it, if it starts to malfunction or whatever, are you going to have to go with Samsung's tech support on that one, or can you take it to your local AT&T store? And I personally think that I've never custom ROM'd, so I'm definitely not an authority on this particular subject, but I get the feeling that custom ROMs are very much one of those things that really sounds like a cool thing to try until you actually try to do it, and then you realize, wow, this is a major pain, and I never want to do this again. And that could just be me. I don't know. There's probably Android people that are screaming at their screens right now saying I'm a moron, and I'm not going to argue with you. But personally, I think I would probably, if it were me, if I'm making this buying decision myself, I'm going to go with the AT&T variant just because, like you said, it's made for the network. And I think at the end of the day, I'm not worried about that much bloatware, although it is a Samsung device. So, maybe we want to keep as much of that off as possible. But I got to go with the AT&T version.
I mean, the nice thing to keep in mind is that if the bloatware bothers you that badly, you can always either hide it or disable it or sometimes even uninstall it. So it's not the end of the world if it has a couple of extra apps on there.
Right. So so I'm thinking our consensus is let's go with AT&T, Mr. Vogt, and get off that BlackBerry, unless of course you enjoy it, in which case, man, you just keep on keeping on. All right, so this next piece of of mail comes from Paul Stevenson. It says, "Hi, Michael and Steven," neither of which are actually on the podcast right now. Sorry about that. Every phone is a compromise, as we know, and every podcast is a compromise as well. What feature is at the top of your shopping list, an absolute must for your next personal phone, and why? Tough, ain't it? Me? Cheat charging, baby. I put in the baby part, but hoping I'm predicting a new feature for the 2015 Moto X. Great job, guys. Kind regards. So, Hayato, what is at the top of your list? And actually, we had a poll about this very question not too long ago. But what's at the top of your smartphone shopping list?
For me, probably the biggest thing is just good battery life. I was inclined to say speakers, and I just wrote a piece on that a couple of days ago. I really like having great speakers on my phone because, yes, you can always use headphones or external speakers, but at the end of the day, you're not always going to be using those. And I like to watch YouTube videos with friends and coworkers, and it's nice to have good speakers for that. But even though the speakers on my M9 are really nice, the battery life is not as good as some other phones, and speakers don't really do you much good if your phone dies while you're trying to use it. So
this is very true. So okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the Alcatel Idol 3 actually kind of gives me both of those. It's got really good battery life and actually very good speakers. But
yeah, did I see like 5+ hours of screen on time for that puppy?
Yeah, 5.5 is the best I've gotten so far.
Wow, that's pretty nice. I actually tweeted to one of the guys at Alcatel. I said, you missed an opportunity with the Idol because I actually designed a logo that says IDOL, but it said the same thing upside down. So if you like turn the logo upside down, it also said Idol. I just like it was such a missed opportunity. But actually, I would actually love to get my hands on that Alcatel phone one of these days. But the one question I actually had about the Alcatel Idol, which actually segues nicely into my answer to this question, is how's the camera on that phone?
It's given the price tag, it's not terrible. You have to keep in mind it's a $250 phone.
Sure.
So it's not terrible, but it's also not it's definitely the weakest point of the phone.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know because in my particular case, the camera is one of the first things that I'm going to look at. Now, I don't really know why this is. Just a little, Adam Doud insider. I'm not much of a photographer. I don't have a very good eye when it comes to photographs, and I always seem to miss the moment. But I want to have a great camera experience, if at all possible, because I want it to make up for my flaws. And so I take a ton of pictures of my kids, and I take a bunch of pictures of like stuff that I find that's funny, and I post it on Instagram all the time. And I want a camera that makes up for the fact that I kind of suck at it. I mean, I don't think that's too much to ask. So for me, a camera is number one on my list. I'll plug in a phone if I have to. In regards to the cheat charging, although I think I'm very well documented when I say I love cheat charging. But when it comes to everything, at the end of the day, I'm looking for a solid camera experience, and everything else is secondary to me. So I guess following that, you'd have to give it to like performance. Maybe as like a close second would be performance. There's no point in having a great camera if you can't use the phone because it's a laggy piece. But I guess that's just kind of how I look at it. So what's out of curiosity, Hayato? What's number 2 on your list after you get good battery life?
No, number 2 after the battery life is definitely the speakers.
Definitely the speakers.
I really like to have a nice camera, but at the same time, for the past 3 years now, I've carried HTC Ones and Moto X's, and I've dealt with really terrible cameras.
Lowers the bar a little bit, doesn't it? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm pretty used to trading that away in exchange for good speakers. So.
Okay. Well, and I know that you're a bit of an audiophile, and you're into the music scene, so I could definitely see how that would be important to you. So, we actually blasted through all 3 of those emails really quickly, and so as it turns out, I did actually grab a 4th one just in case.
Perfect.
I just need to find it here. It would have come from the Let's see. In keeping with your love of brevity, is this the one? No, that's not the one. Oh gosh, where did I put this last one? I emailed it to you too, Hayato. So you check your email too.
I've only got 3.
No, I emailed you one.
No, there it is.
Here we go. Here we go. Project. We were talking about Project Phi, right? Yeah. So okay. So Project. I think it's Phi, not Phi.
Yeah.
Excuse me. This email comes from Andrew Kuntz, who was also nice enough to provide a. This is an inside joke, listeners. So, but he was nice enough to provide the pronunciation of his last name. I personally wouldn't have gone there, but man, that'd be awkward. Anyway, so this email says, "Hey, Pocketnow team, long-time listener, first time writing in. So one of the main selling points of Project Phi is the ability of your Nexus 6 to seamlessly transition from wireless towers to Wi-Fi connections, depending on which connection is better. My question is, does better mean stronger connection or faster connection? Love everything you guys are doing. Keep it up. Yada, yada, yada." That's literally what the email says. Yada, yada, yada. You guys are great. Andrew Kuntz, just like the author. Now, if I had, I don't know specifically, and there's very little details about Project Phi out there now, so I don't think that we can really speak with any authority on here. But what I can do is, as a customer experience designer, because that's kind of like what I do in my day job, how I interpret better would mean a stronger, more reliable connection. It doesn't matter to me if you have a super fast connection, if it's going to be dropping out all the time, and I think that actually kind of defeats the purpose of Project Phi. If you have a super fast connection that's dropping out, what's the point of seamlessly switching back and forth? So if it were me, and if I were making that decision, I would make it with the stronger, more reliable connection. What about you, Hayato?
So, from my understanding, it's actually not related to your internet access. It's your internet access at all. It's actually switching between your wireless network and the Wi-Fi for phone calls. If I read the release right. So it's sort of just Wi-Fi calling basically. And a problem with Wi-Fi calling on T-Mobile and on Sprint is that if you make a Wi-Fi call and then you leave that Wi-Fi network, the call will drop instead of switching to your cellular network.
Which Project Phi will not do.
Exactly. So it's basically just supposed to make sure you don't drop your signal, you don't have any you don't have any kind of reduced signal or quality or anything. So I would say also stronger connection is the end goal here.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, it probably doesn't take a super fast connection to make it. Well, actually, maybe it does to make a Wi-Fi call, but you definitely want to be stronger because otherwise you're going to be bouncing back and forth, and that's going to be a bad experience overall. So I'll tell you what, Andrew, we will keep our eye on this, and as more details emerge, we will be certain to report them to you. But for the moment, I think we're going to go with. I'm sorry, I just glanced again at his signature. For the moment, we're going to go with the stronger connection, not the faster connection, and maybe we'll get to the signature and B-roll, but I certainly hope not. But anyway, I think we got all the news of the week. We got the LG G4, we've got Microsoft Build, we've got Apple. We covered the whole spectrum here. We got 4 pieces of listener mail. That's right, count them 4 right there. And so I think that is going to start to wrap up this show. Did you have any final thoughts for us, Hayato? Or?
No, I did not.
Okay, well then I'm going to go ahead and say that's going to do it for this episode of the Pocketnow Weekly, produced by Jules Wong, studying his craft and perfecting his technique at Greenpoint Zero, and of course spinning slick tunes at wers.org. Also be sure to find my able co-hosts on the Twitters. Steven is getting in some hot voiceover action at Steven Shank, and Hayato is bemoaning low-quality audio while at the same time holding his phone upside down at Hayato Huseman. I can be found talking tech and pimping my own podcast, TechBeard, that's TekBeard.com, at Deg Technology. Pocketnow is also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Google+, and it all comes together like a palm pre in its touchstone at Pocketnow.com. And if you enjoy the podcast, even though I was hosting it, please help it spread far and wide, like a monkey riding backwards on a pig meme. Share it with your friends who love mobile technology, and share it with strangers by leaving a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Xbox, Pocket Cast, wherever podcasts are heard on the web or in the world. On our way out the door, we'd like to thank our hosts at WERS, where Jules Wong is ably twisting his knobs and sliding his faders. And we'd like to thank our sponsor at lynda.com. That's lynda.com/pocketnow. And most importantly, we thank you so much for listening. The Pocket Now Weekly will be back with its regular host with more mobile tech talk and more Michael Fisher and less hair next week.